On today's Ask BRStv, we answered Dave 57's question on Reef to Reef. Can you guys verify these Aqua, Illumination, Hydra 26 and 52 spectrum settings I found with a spectrometer? Hey Reefers, Randy here with another Ask BRStv question. This one coming to us from our Reef to Reef sponsor thread from Dave 57, who wanted us to check out some custom spectrum settings that he found for the AI Hydra 26 and Hydra 52 to try to match the same spectrum produced by EcoTech Marine's Radion AB Plus spectrum. Well Dave, we checked those for you and today we'll share what we found. First, we have to start from the beginning, which may have stemmed this and several other conversations across the forums, and that was when we did a full BRStv Investigates episode exclusively around the AI Prime. In order to get an accurate comparison in PAR and spectrum performance compared to a variety of other light fixtures we were testing, we had Aaron program his best recreation of the EcoTech's Coral Lab AB Plus for the Radion using the sliders for the AI Prime. Here's what Aaron came up with, which as you can see is pretty darn close to the same spectrum peaks and valleys as with the Radion, but with some subtle differences in the 415 peak, 420 to 425 valley, and a little difference in the 460 spectrum area. Given the differences of the fuller spectrum capability from the 23 LEDs inside a single Radion puck versus the 13 LEDs in an AI Prime puck, I'd say he did a pretty solid job. So these settings sparked a wide variety of questions and calls for us to reproduce the same spectrum settings for the AI Hydra 26 and Hydra 52, which essentially have 2 and 4 prime pucks respectively, but with different wattages and hyperdrive settings. In that spirit, I set out to test the same exact slider settings we used on the Prime applied to the Hydra 26 and 52, as well as test out the percentage settings calculated by a fellow reefer that Dave 57 shared with us in today's question, and see which one more closely matches the Radion AB Plus spectrum that reefers in the Coral Lab experiments have been having success with in their tanks. Let's start first with our AI Prime settings applied to the Hydra 26 with the UV channel set to 119%, violet to 116, royal blue to 79, blues to 80, greens at 4 and deep reds at 4, and cool whites to 19%. You can see the spectrum mix didn't scale perfectly, but they are fairly close, with the peaks around the lower 400 range being a bit different and a significant increase in the 465 to 470 range as compared to the Prime. I then shot the spectrum that Dave 57 shared on Reef to Reef with UV at 118%, violet to 101, royal blue at 82, blues to 65, greens at 6, deep reds to 5, and cool whites at 19%. We can see that based on these settings, we were able to round out those peaks in the 465 and 470, however lost a touch in the lower 400 range. But if you compare those settings directly to the AB Plus spectrum from the Radion, you'll actually see that the lower 400 nanometer range is even closer than our custom Prime settings, specifically in that same 410 to 425 violet and UV range. So I would have to agree with the original poster from the data Dave 57 shared with us. In their calculations applied to the Hydra 26 that were pretty much spot on in nearly recreating the exact AB Plus spectrum and what I would personally use for my own Hydra 26 and recommend others try with theirs. Let's move on to the Hydra 52 settings, running both our own AI Prime settings and the variation from Dave 57's post, and you'll quickly see that when compared to the AB Plus spectrum of the Radion, both are lacking a bit in that 660 nanometer range, and there's a significant valley between the 410 and 435 range, where neither settings were able to fill as full as the Radion's more complete spectrum capabilities. So while the AI Hydra has been proven to produce some awesome results on many reefers' tanks, the wide array of LEDs in the Radion and tighter binning control of the exact nanometer emitted from each LED just produces an overall smoother and fuller spectrum, but obviously comes at an increase in the price point. So I tried to tweak the Hydra 52 a little further to see if I could do my best to remove the large valley in the 400 range and increase the 660 range. So I played around with the sliders a bit more and came up with the UVs set to its maxed 156%, violet at 154, royal blues at 160, blues to 77, greens at 11%, deep reds at 40%, and cool whites to 27%. Again, with these settings, I still found that although I couldn't remove the valley completely, I was able to slightly widen the 410 and 420 range, also widen the 440 to 480 bands, and bump the red spectrum near 660 to nearly the same as the Radion's AB+. In the end, I'd say there's a solid takeaway here in the fact that recreating exact spectrums from one fixture to another can be pretty difficult, especially since not all lights, LEDs and LED combinations, are created equal. We've done our best here within the limitations of the Hydra LEDs compared to the more premium Radion LED, which I would personally trust using over my own tank. Thanks for watching, and thank you, Dave57, for bringing up that great question. Keep them coming. If you're looking for some of those more in-depth answers that come from a larger conversation with both the BRS crew and the reefing community as a whole, hit up our sponsor forum over on reef2reef.com. So check out what everyone is talking about with a link to our forum in the lower left as well as in the description, and we'll see you next time on Ask BRS TV.